everyone, it's Mindy from My Creative Scoop, and I'm back with another card making tutorial for my favorite things. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some Copic coloring using this new stamp set called Mermaid for Each Other. And I'm also going to be sharing with you how to create this background using Distress Oxide inks. So let's get started. So I've stamped my image in Desert Sand Memento ink so I can have that no line look to my coloring, and I've stamped it onto my Copic Express It blending card, which is my favorite paper to color on with my Copic markers. So the first thing we're going to do is color the skin. So for that I'm going to be using E13, E11, E00, and E000, and I'm also going to be using R32 and R30 for the cheeks. Now I like to lay my cheek color down because once I lay it down, when I go over it with the skin tones, it kind of softens it so it doesn't have such a harsh line or a little circular mark. So I'm going to take my R32 and just go directly underneath the eyes onto the cheeks and just make some little small circles. Then I'm going to take my R30 and I'm just going to make those circles a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go over them a couple of times so I really blend out that R32. Now I'm going to take my E13 and we're going to just trace right underneath where the hairline is, because her hair is going to be casting a shadow onto her face, onto her forehead. So I'm going to come down the face slightly, so it's going to taper off as it comes down on the side of her face. I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. And then just a little bit underneath the face onto the neck, and also a little bit on the arms. And they're so thin, you just want to add a little bit of color going along the bottom. And the same thing over on this side. And now I'm going to take my E11 and I'm just going to come right along the side of that E13. So with each new lighter color, I'm going to fill in the face a little bit more each time. So I'm making it thicker here, but I'm also extending that line that I made with the E13. It's just going to come down a little bit more. And a little bit onto the neck. And I'm not going to put any color down onto the arms just yet because we're going to skip a color. I'm going to go back with my E13 just because she has a little part of her tummy showing. So I'm just going to give a little trace right underneath her top. I'm going to go back with my E11 and just come down a little bit more. And then with my E00, fill in the face a little bit more. So I'm bringing the color in and then I'm coming down along the side. Same thing over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in the chest. And this time I'm going to add color to the arms. So since there's not a whole lot of color, that's why I'm skipping between colors. So that way we can still have that dark to light contrast without using so many colors, just by skipping one of those colors. So that E11. And then fill in the tummy. And now I'm going to go ahead and take my E000 and I'm going to get a good blend right along the edge of that E00 that we just laid down. And once I have a nice blend, then I'll go ahead and do one swipe over to fill in the rest of the face. So the face still is not blended out enough, so I always like to go back and add another coat. So I'm going to go back with my E13. And I'm just adding color where I first added the E13 to begin with. So I'm just coming right down the side of the face, a little bit on the neck, and on the arms, and along the tummy. And now I'm going to take my E11, come down this on the top part of the face, pulling that color in towards the center. Just going to blend out just a little bit right at the E13, and then we're going to take that E00, and then again with that E000. So I'm going to go back with my E13 and just make a little bit of a line so we can see her nose a little bit better. And I'm also going to trace the mouth. I'm going to go back with my E00 just to add a little bit of a shadow on the side of the nose. Kind of extend it up a little bit so it kind of fades off, giving her a little bit of a bridge of a nose. And then we're going to go ahead, I'm going to take I have a black micron pen, and I'm just going to trace her eyes. And the same thing over here. So it really makes her come to life. So now we're going to go ahead and color her fin and her bathing suit top. So I have them colored yellow. So I'm going to use my Y35 and Y02, and I'm also going to be using E33. Since yellow, I normally would use a gray tone to kind of deepen the colors, but you can't really do that with yellow. So I'm going to use a brown to get a deeper shadow. So I'm going to start with my Y35, and I'm just going to give a little trace along the little scales on her fin. So it's going to get a little softer as I move out because I want more of the shadow to be inside the inner tube. And then I'm just going to trace the lines on the bottom part and also back here for her little shoulder straps. And then we're going to take the Y02, pull the color out, and then fill in the rest. Same thing with the fin. I'm just going to go over it a couple of times so it kind of blends out that Y35 since the colors are very different. And then I'm going to take my E33 and I'm just going to trace some of the lines that are in her fin closest to the inner tube, so that way I have that shadow. And then just coming out on a few of these out here just for some texture. And then also the lines here at the bottom. Now since I don't necessarily, we're going to add a little bit more E33 up here. Now since I don't want those to really be brown, I want them to be a darker version of this yellow that we're using. So I'm going to go back over it with my Y35, go back over that brown so I can kind of replace that color and add some of this yellowy orange color into it. So that way it just looks like a darker version of this color. And then again with my Y02. Okay, so for her hair, we're going to go ahead and color it brown. So I'm going to be using E33, E31, and E30, and also a little bit of E23. Okay, so I'm going to start with my E33. And I'm just going to trace the lines that are already there. So I'm going to come out from behind the heart and just kind of give a little flick. Same thing over here. I'm just kind of tracing the lines that are there. Oh, and then we want to come up from her little ponytail. And also where the curls are, I'm just going to flick going in the opposite direction. So there's a little bit of a shadow here and then up at the top. And now I'm going to take my E31, continue pulling the color down, and a little bit going up. And then I'm just flicking going across. I'm still leaving a lot of little white. I'm not really blending out these lines because I want to still be able to see the lines that we're creating, so that way it looks like hair texture. So now I'm going to take my E30 and I'm just going to kind of softly flick going up. That way I'm filling in some of the hair there's not really hair right there, but it makes her hair look a little fuller. And then I'm going to go ahead and just lightly go over everything that's white. Now to make it stand out a little bit more, I'm going to take my E23 and I'm just going to pick and choose strands to pull out and make have deeper shadows. So I'm not going to do every single one of them. Maybe if you messed up on your little curl and you're not really happy, or if you went a little too thick, this is your chance to kind of blend it out and make it a little bit, you could make it a little bit softer by going along one of the sides that's too thick. So I'm just going in between some of the hair strands, creating more hair texture. And then also I'm going to trace the little curly cues that are coming down around her face. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and color her glasses. So I'm going to be using N9, N7, and N5, and a little bit of N3. So I'm going to start with my N9, and I'm just going to go on one side of the hearts. So I'm going to just trace right along this side, and I'm going to come up just a little bit, but the shadow is going to be mostly on the one side, and so it stays the same. We're going to do the exact same thing on this side, so that way both of the glasses match. And then I'm going to come out a little bit more using my N7. And then a little bit more with my N5. And then now fill in the rest of the glasses with the N3. And then we'll go ahead and take a white gel pen and give a little bit of a highlight. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. And we are ready to move on and color her inner tube. You know what, before we color her inner tube, I'm going to go ahead and get back out my N7 and go right at the bottom of her little glasses. And then I'm going to get my N5 back out and fill in right in between. Okay, so now for the inner tube. I'm going to be using this hot pink color combination. So RV19, RV14, and RV13. I'm going to start with my RV19. And all behind her is where we want it to be shadowed, and underneath her right in here so it looks like the inner tube is round, and we also want to add a little bit of a shadow on the bottom of the inner tube. So I'm going to come out right underneath her arm and then come around the inner tube, the center part right here, and all underneath her. Now you want to be very careful when you're creating this little perimeter around your image so that way you don't color anything this hot pink color. And also right behind her neck, and same thing over here, and also going along the bottom. So notice it's going to be thicker here and it's going to get thinner as it comes around. So then I'm going to take my RV14 and I'm going to come out just a little bit more. And then I'm going to take my RV13 and we'll go ahead and finish filling in the inner tube. And now I'm going to go back and repeat. So I'm going to take my RV19 and give a little flick. And then I'm going to go back with my RV14. All right, so now we'll go ahead and add some highlight to the inner tube. So I'm going to come right along the top. And add a little bit of a highlight. So she is all ready to be die cut out and we are ready to do our background for our card. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is create a template. So I have my card base here. I'm just going to set that aside, and then I have a card front size. It's cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/5. And I'm going to take this piece of cardstock and I'm going to make my little waves. So I'm just going to take my scissors, run them all the way across in this little wavy pattern. And now I have a wavy pattern for my ocean, and then I have the reverse part that matches perfectly, so I can use it when I'm creating the ocean, this part for when I'm doing the sky. So let's go ahead and start with the sky. So if I look back at my card here, I have it a little bit higher than halfway. So I'm going to go up to about here. And then I'm going to take my Distress Oxide. I'm going to be using dried marigold. Get a little bit on the brush and very lightly just add a little bit of color going across from the top of the water. And I'm going to come up to where the sun is going to be. So it's just very soft. And I'm going to keep that in place and wipe off my brush. And now I'm going to take my tumbled glass and add a little bit of blue sky in the opposite direction. So now I'm going to come from this side over here and very lightly add a little bit of blue. So it's very soft, very subtle. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this top part. Let's go ahead and line it up. It's easier to do it this way, so I make sure it goes to the edge. And now I'm going to take my peacock feathers and get that nice and inked up. And then I'm going to take it and we're going to create our ocean. So I'm going to go right all the way to the top, but it's going to get softer as it comes over to this corner. Let's get a little more ink on there. So I have this little piece almost like in a triangular shape. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of chipped sapphire. Just in the corner. And then let's go back with our peacock feathers. Okay, and now let's go ahead and take Vintage Photo and create our sand. So I'm going to get some ink on there and start right at the edge over here, and I'm going to barely get to the edge and then drag the color out very softly. I'm barely putting any pressure on my brush. So I'm coming all the way out to where the blue is, but there is a very light between the two colors. So that way we can create the sand and where the ocean meets. So let's go ahead and clean up this stuff and get ready to assemble our card. Okay, so before we add our die cuts, I'm gonna go ahead and take my white gel pen and we're just gonna add some little details to the water. So right in between where these colors are meeting, I'm just going to create little circles, almost like little doodles, right in between the two colors. So can you see that? So just little circles, and you want to go into some of the sand and into the water. And it starts to look like where the wave breaks into the sand, so it has all that foamy and then we're going to go ahead and continue going and just making a couple waves. And let's do another one way back here. Okay, so now we're going to take our E33, the Copic marker, and just add a couple little dots into our sand. So I'm staying really close to the edge where it's the darkest. And then let's go ahead and take E31 and add a couple little dots that are a little bit lighter. So now it's really starting to look like a beach scene. So now I've die cut a yellow sun that we're going to add, and I'll have all of the links below so you guys can see. This yellow sun is from My Favorite Things. And the easiest way that I used, when I first put my card together, was to use where I die cut it out as a template. So that way I can have all of my sun rays lined up just perfect. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue. So I'm lining it up so I can have 4 rays. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue, stick my sun down, and then go ahead and add a little bit of glue in the little holes, and then place, just like a puzzle, place the pieces right back where they go. Make sure they're pushed down good, so that way when you lift this back up, it's all there. And then we're just going to trim off the excess of the sun. And this is also, you can save that part and save the little rays, so if the next time you want a little sun peeking out, you already have it die cut. So I also stamped and cut out the little clouds from Piggy Pebbles. Super cute little clouds there. So that way I can glue those on to my card. So I didn't put usually I like pop dot everything, but since these are supposed to be way in the background, I don't want to have so much dimension because we're gonna have her popped up. That's the same reason why I didn't want the sun popped up. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down. And then I'm going to put another one along the top. And we're going to stick her right here in the water. Let's get some foam tape. Actually, before we put her on the foam tape, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. So place that there. Go ahead and place my sentiment right along the bottom. And I'm using my Memento black ink. And I'm going to go ahead and ink that up twice just so I know that it's nice and crisp. All right. And now she is ready to be put on our card. So I'm going to stick her right there. Okay, so I've added some more foam tape on the back of my card front. And then we're going to go ahead and attach it to the card base. And let's go ahead and add some Glossy Accents to our sun. Now the best way to add this is to kind of have it blob out, and then don't press anymore and just kind of push it around, because it will take some time to dry. Okay, and then finally I'm just going to add a little bit of sparkle to the sea with my Stardust Stickles. I don't want a whole lot because I don't want to take away from any of the Copic, or I'm sorry, the Distress Ink, the white gel pen, but I do want a little bit of sparkles. And we'll go ahead and add some to the sand as well. All right. So very soft, very subtle, but you can still, and if you've gotten too much on there, you can always just take it and just kind of smudge it out with your finger. So I hope you enjoyed watching me make this card. I hope I've inspired you, and I will see you again next month. Thank you so much for watching.